The following vodcast contains opinions from paid professionals. The information provided in this vodcast is general in nature and not advice. For free and confidential support, call 1800 858 858 or visit gamblinghelponline.org.au.
Welcome to another episode of So We Think. Ben Way, good week and good weekend of racing that has just been, and we've got plenty to get through.
Yeah, it's funny. It's sort of in that phase of the autumn carnival where things disappear from your mind from like only a few days ago because suddenly you're looking ahead to what's to come. So, yes, it was an amazing edition of the Canterbury Stakes, I thought, and maybe a bit of an upset. Had it in the quaddie.
Did ya?
Yeah. Paid unders, I reckon. So linebacker rolls broadside.
Yes.
And surely that knocks a few out.
I would have thought so. People would have taken one out.
$1.60,
Yeah.
surely. And they might have just gone Swift Falcon broadsiding.
Yeah.
And then what did you have? You had Royal take out the second race at 27s. So I'm thinking there's 8 Group 1 winners in there. Surely we've knocked out nearly everyone. LL Cants won the third leg.
Favourite.
And was second favourite when the quaddie kicked
Okay.
off. Well, that's
late money.
right. No, I'm just saying, technically second favourite when the quaddie was on.
Yeah.
And yes, I know Commemorative's taken out the last leg, but when I was looking at proxies, the top 4 in the market were only 5,500. Unders. That's an $8,000 quaddie, $10,000 quaddie.
Hang on, so did you get it?
In my humble. 22% of 5.5.
Oh, well done.
Yeah.
That's great. And we're no wiser as to the picture of the Golden Slipper really either after the performance of Wotan on the weekend. Tentris winning the Todman. He's out with an issue. Tempted was very good. The fillies running faster time than the Colts on the day. And we've got a last win and you're in race, so to speak, because they're exempt races in the Pago and the Magic Night this weekend. But the market for the Slipper is just so fascinating. And it will continue to be that way for the next 10 days.
I said to the boys on PI on Tuesday, I still feel like, depending what happens on the weekend, the market on Slipper Day could be drawn to Wotan.
Regardless.
Just because you can pop so many holes in everybody else. And at least he's sort of been giving you a marker each time. And yeah, sure, he's been beaten, but a lot of the horses that have beaten him have then been disappointing the next start, or they were disappointing the start prior to that. And I don't know, he's probably the least peaky of the crop. So I think the big guys would still be drawn to him.
We'll see how he is in the yard. We know that's so important when it comes to the Slipper. So a few things we're going to get through today. We're going to have 2 special guests today. Going to chat to Danny Williams about the future of Shelby Sixtysix after his disappointing in the Group 2 Challenge Stakes on the weekend. But also as we edge towards the Golden Slipper, I wanted to chat to one of the OG gurus of 2-year-old training, and that is Clarry Conners. So he will join us shortly as well. But in terms of the news, a couple of items to get through. The first one being the running of the Coolmore Stakes for the fillies and the mares on Saturday. So initially Lady Shenandoah, who I think everyone thinks is one of the top 2 fillies in the country at the moment. Some people might have Treasure the Moment on top after her heroics in Victoria.
She's on top.
She's on top.
She's the number 1 seed.
She's your number 1?
Yeah.
Some people might have Lady Shenandoah for Chris Waller on top. So the traditional Chris Waller path with these 3-year-old fillies would be to stick to their age bracket. And that's what he's been indicating over the last few weeks. She was entered for both the Far Lap and for the Coolmore. He's scratched her from the Far Lap. Even though she's drawn ultra wide in the Coolmore, she will face up against the older mares on Saturday. She's been crunched into favouritism. She's got a wide gate to contest with. But this tells us really only one thing, that she's just that much better than everyone else.
Yeah, and you talk about the older mares. I mean, bar Amelia's duel, like, is there anyone there that they should be fearful of for Lady Shenandoah? Like, you've got Manal and you've got Lady of Camelot, who she bumped into last time, who I'm sure that'll be a competitive race between the two of them again. But I look through the rest of them and I'm kind of like, it's a good Coolmore to have a go at. She's favourite and she should be.
I just think it's so interesting that they've obviously had the option of an easier kill in the Far Lap, because you look at the Far Lap and it's an okay running, I'd say, of the Far Lap Stakes at Group 2 level. Like, you got Wonder Boy coming up from Victoria, no strings attached, is looking for 4 on the bounce, flying from above for Peter Snowden's at a big price. Moving out's the real interesting one for Chris Waller there. And maybe that's a little sign, but he's also got Lazura and Declici Boulevard, who are building third up, peaking towards something. He could have had all of them at his mercy if he'd run
Yeah,
Lady
but now he
Shenandoah
can
then.
win too.
Correct.
So you got your answer.
I know.
So he obviously feels he has the winner amongst the rest.
Yep.
And he feels she's capable of winning the Coolmore, which I don't think anyone would argue with.
It's fascinating stuff. So she will jump favourite in the Coolmore. It's going to be really hard for Amelia's Jewel to win it, even though she was really impressive first up. She had favours on speed. It was one hell of a ride to just be able to take it up and control it from the get-go. But 58 kilos is a big weight to carry. Just one more thing, though, on Lady Shenandoah. There's only one other 3-year-old filly who has won this race by carrying 4.5 kilos above the minimum. And that was Bounding Away back in the 80s. So it takes a special one to be able to carry the weight. I mean, she's got 54.5 kilos. That's the other thing. That bloke doesn't really ride 54.5 kilos a lot.
No.
So, but that's
Good luck. You would need a crowbar to get him off.
correct.
That horse.
Correct. But then you look at some of the other fillies, the 3-year-old fillies, like Lady of Camelot, half a kilo less, and then Manal, 51 kilos. So they are conceding weight to other opposition.
Yeah. Again,
But she's just better than them.
yeah, she is. She's proven that. How much better? We'll find out on Saturday. And I'm intrigued to see what path they now take with Autumn Glow as well. Clearly things haven't quite gone to plan on that front, and she had a setback and everything's gone back a little bit. But let's not forget that originally she was
Number
the
one
second
seed.
coming of Jesus Christ and Lady Shenandoah was the 2 seed.
Yep.
Well, things seem to have flipped.
Yeah. So she'll run in the Derby Munro going forward after missing her first up run due to that setback, and she had a couple of trials.
They have another one. Before the show, I just got you to have a sneaky little peek.
Trial perp.
Yeah, a
Hello.
little bit of a trial perp.
So do you want to throw that out as maybe a futures kind of play?
Oh, well, the markets aren't open.
Okay.
So
will
if
be
they go
soon.
Hawkesbury, then Queensland, they will be soon. So maybe they're not going to miss it. But for anyone out there, please go and watch the trial of Erno, so Ernaux. Now, the reason I say no one's going to miss it, I'm Invincible out of Booker. She cost a stack. No one's missing that. She was the headline act, really, in that trial, and really at the trials that day. So, but she is one that's got me really excited, and evidently they're heading towards something in Queensland, which I'm interested to hear more about. But yeah, a couple that are racing at the moment that are exciting, and a couple that we're just waiting to see.
I hope that she gets to black type racing this preparation, because John Stewart from Resolute Racing in America has spent an absolute bomb on Bloodstock over the last 18 months. Like, we haven't seen any of his yearlings, now 2-year-olds, take to the track yet. So it would be good to see him with one that he's, she's regally bred. She's bred in the purple.
Yeah.
To her to get into a black type race and hopefully get her own black type over the next few months. We got some news yesterday that I Wish I Win has been retired, and he had an amazing racing career. It's pretty incredible that he was able to get to the track after his legs the way he was born, but great patience from Peter Moody, Kat Coleman, and of course his owner in Mark Chittick as well, to be able to see him win a couple of Group 1s.
Yeah, he was a fantastic horse, ridiculously good on his day. He was prominent in a lot of our Group 1 sprints, Everest markets over the years as well, and you could just tell it was tough getting him to the race and getting him up every preparation. And you know what? They've read the room, said, you know what, it's too tough now. So he's done his job and he's out. And we'll discuss that kind of topic a lot throughout the course of the podcast. But part of a trainer's job is to read the room with horses. They can't put up their hand and say, hey, I've had enough, or hey, I want to keep racing. So you do need to make the call, and they've made the call there.
Speaking of which, let's bring in our first guest. Saturday saw the running of the 1,000-metre challenge stakes Group 2 level, and we saw Shelby Sixtysix contest this event at his 48th career start. Unfortunately, it didn't go as planned for Danny Williams, Alicia Collett and the horse. He presented as 2 out of 5 lame at the conclusion of the race, but there's been a lot of discussion about Shelby Sixtysix's future in the racing game, Ben, but also whether he should be retired, I guess. A lot of chitter-chatter on social media. Yeah,
there certainly has been. And this is something that I think a lot of racing fans feel passionate about. And that was why we were keen to get Danny Williams on. And Danny's been kind enough to do it, albeit I think it's fair to say slightly reluctantly, because as he said to me yesterday, he's almost too exhausted to defend himself, and you are having to do a fair bit of defending. So as we welcome Danny in, I want to say thank you for starters for talking to us. But secondly, I guess the reason for the passion, Danny, is that this is a horse that really captured the racing public's imagination. It's a horse that everybody fell in love with a couple of seasons ago when he rose to Group 1 glory. I mean, he has been such a fantastic horse, and no one loves him more than you. Is that right?
That's correct. My partner and I, in particular, my partner calls him our boy. So, yeah, look, it's all of our horses very close to us, and not more so than Shelby 66.
So for those out there who think he should be retired, tell us why you disagree. At the moment, for the lay of the land, it is with Steve and the stewards to decide, because your decision is that he should continue racing. So tell us why you're of that frame of mind.
Look, in short, his last two preparations, he's raced with a sequestrium in his foot, and we've had that removed. In the last 8 months, we've had a lot of rehabilitating the horse. The horse has never been sounder in himself. As owners, we just want to enjoy racing. We as all owners do. This is why we purchase horses, invest in horses to see them run. He's never been sounder. He's had multiple vet checks. He's had a really good foundation in his training, and he's very sound and he's very happy.
So, you like me, we watched on Saturday, and optically, Danny will agree, it wasn't a good look. Can you tell me what you felt on Saturday watching Shelby 66, and then we'll ask Danny what he felt seeing the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, I spoke to Danny on race day, and my natural gut reaction was concern, because it looked like something was wrong, and we can't deny the fact that he pulled up 2 out of 5 lame. Now, that's not completely out of the ordinary for a horse, whether that happened because he was pulled up too swiftly or because his action, as Alicia Collett said while she was riding him, wasn't as she would have liked. It's hard to ascertain. I guess the thing with people who are calling for his retirement, Danny, is that he's done a remarkable job for you, you know, winning a Group 1, that meteoric rise during that autumn preparation a couple of years ago it's still one of my favourite stories. But he's 8 years old. In his last 15 starts, he's finished last in 8 of them. And yes, that may be due to the tumour that was in his foot, and obviously his first up over the 1,000 metres in an undesirable track. But I guess there comes a point where some people think, you know, you're 8 years old, he's achieved so much in his career, and because he's getting hard to place, he's a Group 1 winner. His benchmark rating is not dropping to a level that allows him to be raced in 78s and 88s, and maybe that's where he does probably sit talent-wise at the moment. It's hard to place him, so he is contesting harder races. You love him so much, like maybe giving him a beautiful, you know, send off to the paddock where he can just potter around and enjoy himself there could be the best thing for him. Obviously, you're his trainer, Danny, and you know the horse better than anyone else. You know him inside out. But I guess that's where some people have come from. I don't agree with the vitriolic that's online, all the attacks that are online. I mean, I'm not, as I've just discussed with Danny, I'm not on Twitter because I don't need to listen or hear or absorb anything or any of that negativity, whether it be about anything in life. Like, I like to live a positive life, as I hope Danny does too. But I think that's where people are coming from when they are questioning whether he should be retired.
Danny, after Saturday, you agree that it wasn't a good look, and in hindsight, is it fair to say you wouldn't have run him given the track was as firm as it was?
Look, Ben, it was very unexpected what happened. We were very pleased with the horse going into the race. Obviously, it wasn't his preferred surface. We've done a lot of work with the horse leading into that particular day. And look, he's never been sounder. The horse is very happy from an owner's point of view, he's raced his last two preparations with a foot issue that we believe that we've got on top of. I think there's still a lot of racing in the horse. I think that he wants to race. He wants to do it. From an owner point of view, you have horses in racing for that particular reason. And yes, he's done a lot. He's a Group 1 winner. You've got to remember, prior to the Group 1 race, that only lasted a month, and the horse prior to that was racing in the country. He was beaten at the Sapphire Coast. He was running in highways. And it was an amazing experience for us all. After the TJ Smith, that particular preparation, obviously things have gone downhill, and we didn't realise at first that the horse had it was a keratosis in his foot, and perhaps he had that for some time and had been racing with that. So since the operation, we've seen the horse just very happy and content in himself. And we feel that there's still a lot to go with the horse. I know that his form recently has been pretty poor, but they were the two preparations preceding that Galaxy win. So look, he's very sound, very happy, and whilst he's like that, we feel that he's still wanting to race and wanting to do it. We're not out to prove anything. We're just typical owners that would like to enjoy our horses racing.
And there's been discussion that it's greed, and the same was referenced with a horse like Chautauqua, in terms of the owners don't care about the welfare of the horse; they're just chasing more money. With those results, and with the operation, and with the training costs, I can only imagine Shelby has been costing money, not making money, because he certainly hasn't been bringing in the prize money of late. So that element, I will say, is probably a bit off the mark. But can you just shed a little bit of light? The attacks on you, I know that you feel are grossly unfair. They've become personal as opposed to professional. How have you been coping? Because you certainly come to us, and having spoken to you at length on the phone yesterday, it sounds as though this has taken a heavy toll on you and your family.
It has been for well over the last year and a half. We've had someone really trolling us about the horse's soundness, and in the last year and a half, every time the horse has gone to the trials, gone to the races, he's been vetted beforehand, he's been vetted after. And yeah, look, it obviously there's a lot of people out there love the horse and would like to see the best for the horse, and there's been some really great feedback. And I know a lot of people are actually worried about whether the horse should race on or not, but they're not informed. They don't see the horse every day. They aren't with the horse every day. They don't understand what we've been able to achieve over the last 12 months. They're misinformed if they're thinking that the horse is unsound and being untreated. He's a really well-loved horse, and we look after all of our horses. They come first. It's not about greed.
Is there a distinction, Danny, between the fact that, yes, at home and at trials and, during work on a Tuesday and being at your yard, he's really happy and he's obviously very sound. He can't be vetted that many times and be given the tick to go if he's not sound. So I completely agree with Danny on that. But then when it comes to race day, and he might not be the certain personality of horse that is aggressive in telling you that he doesn't want to compete or
stands in the barriers.
Like Chautauqua. But do you think there is something to take from the fact that he could be a very happy, healthy horse at home, but maybe he just isn't enjoying actual racing?
Look, there's always that case, Emma, but as I've stated, the horse, his last couple of preparations since the running in the TJ Smith after winning the Galaxy, the horse had
Yeah.
a keratosis in his foot, so obviously he wasn't happy. He wasn't wanting to stretch out, and his form suggests that. But, since that operation over, I think it's nearly 10 months ago now, we've seen a much happier and content horse. He's showing everything at home that he still wants to do it. I'm not seeing that at the moment, and until you race him,
Yeah.
you're not going to really know. And if he did come back and didn't perform, I'd be the first to pull him up. Only 2 trials ago, he ran second to the horse that won the Canberra listed national sprint the other day. And then he won a barrier trial.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously he's an 8-year-old. He's much bigger in condition. He's going to take a couple of runs to come up. He always did. They call him the party boy. The reason that he was the party boy was that he's such a gross horse that he took a lot of racing to get fit. And it's expected that the horse is going to take a few runs to get back to fitness. And what we're seeing at home, and I've been asked by some of the other owners of the horse, is he still wanting to do it? And all I can see is what he's showing at home. And as a trainer, that's all we've got to go on. If the horses are happy, they're working well, and everything's going well, until you race them, you don't really know.
One last one, Danny, if you don't mind. So procedurally from here, off the back of the race on Saturday, most people were saying, right, well, this decision is for Danny to make. You've evidently made your decision. We've been sent visions, thanks to you, of the horse being vetted. So I assume his future now lies with Steve Rolton and the stewards. Is that right? And when do you anticipate a decision would be made?
Look, I haven't spoken to Mr. Rolton. I think he was waiting to speak with his vets and a discussion and some sort of inquiry after that to finalise things. We'll proceed, and I think it's up to them. It's not up to me at the moment. It's entirely up to them and the vets. We've done everything that we can do. We've vetted the horse. The horse has been vetted regularly. Just in the last 3 weeks, I think the horse has been vetted about 8 times. He's cleared all those inspections and examinations. He's had multiple vets go over him, and they're all saying that the horse looks fantastic. He's a really happy horse. And, we'll just leave it to the stewards' final say. We've done everything that we can to keep them satisfied that we're doing the right thing.
All right. Well, whatever decision ends up being made, we certainly appreciate you coming on. I know that this has been a particularly trying time, and I guess my only advice, whether you think that Shelby should be retired or not, it is ultimately going to be the decision of the stewards and Danny. Danny's made his call, and all I'll say is just don't have it be personal. Yeah, we all want this horse to be happy, healthy, and living his best life, but I can assure you none more so than Danny, and you might not agree with his decision. But that is his decision, and it's an informed one. So I respect you for coming on, Danny, and we'll certainly wait with a lot of interest to see what happens. He's been a fantastic horse.
Yes, he has.
Thanks, mate.
Thanks, Danny.
Thank you. No, thank you.
Danny Williams there, the trainer of Shelby Sixtysix. And I agree with you, Ben. You know, there's something to be said about, of course, people can have opinions on things. That's the right of every person, whether it be here in conversation or online, but geez, people can take things too far and just do it in the most awful, aggressive, unnecessary manner.
It's something that people feel really passionately about, and as I said, he's such a fan favourite that everybody feels as though they
own him.
They own him, and they have a say. And to a certain extent, you do. We don't want to see horses racing when they don't want to. Age is not really even a factor in my mind. It's about whether there's the desire there. Danny is the one that's seeing him day to day. The vets are seeing him, you heard from that, exceptionally regularly. The stewards will be well informed. So I'll leave the decision to them. I just think attacks on Danny and his partner for that matter, and he didn't go into depth on it there, and understandably so, but we're talking really personal stuff over more than a year and a half, and not just regarding that horse. I mean, this is a guy that's been in the game for 40-something years, and that has to stand for something.
As we edge towards the Golden Slipper, and it does look like now one of the most open Golden Slippers that we've had in many, many years after the results of last weekend in the Todman and the Riesling, I wanted to go to a guru, and he is one of the OGs when it comes when it comes to Golden Slippers, to ask about what we're looking for on race day and what is the perfect recipe or formula, so to speak, to have a Golden Slipper winner. And Clarry Conners, I mean, his record speaks for itself. 4 Golden Slipper wins. He's an inductee into the Australian Racing Hall of Fame. His most recent Golden Slipper was the very famous victory of Belle de Jour back in 2000, and everyone knows the scenes of John Singleton shouting the bar at Rose Hill Gardens. She was an immense filly. But Clarry is still at it, still training winners, and I reckon he has the nous to tell us what makes a Golden Slipper winner. And he joins us on So We Think. Welcome, Clarry.
Good morning.
It's great to have you on, Clarry, and Emma's right. You are the guru on this front, so essentially we want to get baking with you. We need all the ingredients, we need the method, we need everything to tell us how to get that next 2-year-old star and that next Golden Slipper winner. So first and foremost, in a horse, whether it be breeding or whether it be when you're looking at the sales or something that you can be presented with, what kind of 2-year-old are you looking for? One that's big and boisterous and says, yes, I'm an early 2-year-old, or something a little finer that says, work with me, I've got the talent, you just need to, get the best out of me?
Well, I think the latter, really, because she's probably a big, strong yearling when you first purchase them. By the time they get to the 2-year-old stage, they're going to be too heavy, and they're going to break down, they're going to be gelded and everything else. So you want something that's a little bit lighter, that looks more athletic type.
The other thing I noticed when going through your 4 slipper runners, Clarry, was 3 of them had won the Todman or the Riesling, and 3 of them had also had decent spring preparation. So do you think, I mean, Belle de Jour being the exception because she had the 2 starts in the autumn and then went into the slipper, and we know how that unfolded. Do you think it's more ideal for a 2-year-old to start their racing career in the spring to get that experience under their belt, or can you hold off like many trainers have done as we edge towards this Golden Slipper with starting them in the autumn?
I think Emma, all my horses I try to either before Christmas have to give them a start, or at least a barrier trial, and turn them back out so that when they come in they know what's going on. So I do think it's nearly essential they have a little bit of a prep before the big thing comes around.
So they have the experience, and then they're coming into it as their second preparation. They kind of know what it's all about. And in terms of qualifying races, you had a look back. So the majority of the time, Clarry was using the really late qualifications.
Well, the Todman and the Riesling. So then he had 2 weeks in between the slipper. The exception being, I think, Prowl, who went down and won a Blue Diamond Prelude, ran in a Blue Diamond, and then ran in a Pago to bounce back and back up the next week in the slipper. The other thing I noticed with most of your slipper runners as well, Clarry, was that is 3 the magic number when it comes to runs for the preparation?
I think so. You sort of don't want to overdo it, and it's it's just a nice preparation, and they're nice and fit. Used to the razzmatazz of the races and everything else, and they're relaxed in the enclosure so they know what's going on, not too fresh, but fit enough for the day. So I think you've got to give them 3 starts if you can.
They say you learn twice as much from a loss as you do from a win, Clarry. So I'm intrigued. We always talk about the wins that you've had, but looking back through your career and maybe through the early stages, do you think there were some 2-year-olds that maybe with a different approach, and maybe the approach you're discussing now, you could have got them to a Golden Slipper, but maybe went a little bit early or left a little bit of work out of them?
Yeah, well, that sort of happens along the way, but I can't think of the horses straight off the bat that it's just, early on, you got an idea with what horses. Like I never had a lot of 2-year-olds to start off with each preparation, not like a big stable. So I sort of choosing, I might have had 4 or 5 horses, 2-year-olds for one preparation. So early on, you've got to decide which one might be better than the others, or date of birth, and how they're going in this first preparation.
So there's all these little things that we can pull from what Clarry's saying to formulate this recipe, so to speak. Okay, when it comes to slipper day, how important is a gait? What's the ideal gait? And where do you want them settling in the run?
Well, I don't know. Belle de Jour mucked up the ideal gait.
Yeah, I want them to rear out of the gate. Yeah. I want them to be tailed off last.
By 5.
Yeah, and weave a passage through. That sounds like a real recipe for
success. Take her out of the equation, because what she did that day, and I rewatched it a couple of times last night. It's the most, even at the 150, going, she can't win.
Yeah.
That's right. But I think, you're middle of the field if you can, and I think you've got to be on the pace somewhere. You don't want to be too far back. My other winners, Terse, he was just behind the leaders. Burst was just behind the leaders. Prowl, I guessed what was going to happen in Prowl's race, so I told Chris once to go to the front at the half mile and see if they can't catch her.
Yeah.
So that was my plan for that race, and it come off. And Belle de Jour, as you know, she's missed the start. So they all had sort of different how they raced it on that particular day.
Yeah, I'm intrigued to hear too about the sustained success of a 2-year-old, because you are the last trainer to have a horse essentially go through the 2-year-old Group 1s unscathed, claiming all of them. And we had an absolute star for Portelli a couple of years ago trying to continue that trend, Fireburn, and she ultimately popped at the final hurdle. But how difficult is it, Clarry, to keep them up through a slipper? Well, you need to get into a slipper. So into a slipper, and then obviously a size and Champagne too.
Yeah, it was pretty hard. It's look, we can't do it if we haven't got the motor to do it. We've got to, we look after as much as we can, and we've got high ambitions and things like. But as the horse itself, it's got to have, it's got to want to do it. It's got to have the stamina itself, and they're just racehorses. So I don't think we can make a silk purse out of a sow's ears, they say. But we've got the horses are the things themselves, and we're looking after them the best we can.
Clarry, a couple more to finish with. Out of the crop of jocks that we have at the moment, who do you want riding a 2-year-old in the slipper?
It all depends where I'm going to be, up on the pace or back off the pace. But I suppose you have to name Mr. James McDonald, I suppose.
All right, let's go on pace. Who are you choosing up on pace? At Timmy Clark, Josh Parr, and Nashra Willer, or?
They're Timmy Clark, I think. Tim Clark.
All right, off pace, Jason Collett. He's back there weaving a passage more often than not, isn't he? Who'd be your backmarking jock?
Well, Jason Collett, he's an incredible rider. How he gets horses to relax for him. And if you've got to also over races, he's the best rider to put on, in my opinion. They just relax for him, and then they get the line very strong. He's a great rider, Jason.
Yeah, he is. He's got patience well beyond my punting nerves, I can tell you.
And as we conclude, Clarry, I mean, the field isn't set yet, but from what you've seen over the last month or so, who do you think wins the 2025 Golden Slipper? Who has what it takes?
I think Chris Waller's Colt's the one, Woodham.
Yeah.
He's still the one. He's probably on the pace too much the other day. And you've got a champion trainer and champion jockey. It's a big help.
Yeah, it certainly is. Can I one last one? Clarry, are you going to train another Golden Slipper winner?
Yeah.
Yes, Marie.
Look, I think that's something that keeps me going, really. I'd love to train another slipper winner. Really, I would, because Clarry Conners gets me remembered to train 4 Golden Slipper winners. I'd like to make that 5 Golden Slipper winners. It'd be great.
Yeah, get a full handful.
I want to see it too, Clarry.
Yeah. All right.
Thanks
Thanks.
for your wise words.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, okay. Well, thanks very much. Talk to you later.
We'll see you at the
Clarry.
track soon. Clarry Conners there, a trainer who has achieved so much in racing, over 30 Group 1s, and do yourself a favour and go and watch that 2000 Golden Slipper in its entirety, because honest to God, what she did that day. And you know, like the story as well with the punting with John Singleton, he wanted to have a 100,000
Yeah.
on her at 10-1, found one bookie who was one of his mates to go and back her at that price, made sure that they did a deal. The bookie had to lay off it before he could go and punt elsewhere, and he kept to his word. So he won $1 million on the punt on that day. And initially I think he was going to only shout like a drink for everyone, or, you know, an hour or something. And he said, stuff it. I'm going till the end of the day.
Yeah.
So fill your boots.
It's probably the most remarkable win of our lifetime, and there's a reason it gets replayed every year this time of year, and maybe throughout the year as well. But yeah, there aren't many that spring to mind that were more remarkable than that. God's Own had a win that was just out of this world, but yeah, there weren't many.
So the things you take out of that is that you want a horse with preferably spring experience, 3 runs in the autumn, settle midfield to just behind the pace. You don't want something that's big and hulky and gross in condition. And he has used those traditional lead-ups, the Todman and the Riesling, 2 weeks out as his platforms to get them into the race, but also to just tick that final box to make sure that they're fully prepared. So if you do formulate all of that, he is
You
right.
don't end up with Watson.
No, well, he didn't have the spring experience,
No.
but he did come through the Todman, and he ran second in the Todman, was probably written maybe a bit too close. Maybe Clarry's right. Don't know.
Don't know.
What did you think of our guests today?
Always, and I was about to say the word novelty. It is a pleasure and an honour to talk to Clarry, and the same could be said for Danny. But a Hall of Famer, wowee, what a luxury we have to be able to just call up and say, hey, can you pop on
But
and
also
just give
pick
us the
his-
ingredients?
Yeah, pick his brains. Like, that's so generous of him to let us do that and say, okay, so if I'm looking for the winner of the slipper, how do we find it?
Danny, I was hesitant because he was hesitant when we called. I called him yesterday and we chatted for 25, 30 minutes and he said, I don't have the energy to defend myself. So I was like, you know what? You don't want to come on the podcast. That's sweet. But if you don't come on, we're going to talk about it. And we're going to give our thoughts as opposed to giving your thoughts. And I said, I can read something out. If you send me something, I can read your words. But it's coming out of my mouth. So I'm glad that he came on. I think most people watching will disagree with him. I think most will think Shelby 66 should be retired. But at least now we know why he thinks no. And it is interesting that he didn't say one more start. He said, I'm thinking there's a lot more racing left in him. So watch this space. That's now in the hands of the stewards, and good to get some clarity from Danny at least that he's read the room and said, no, I want to push on.
Anyways, speaking of retirement, though, she is back from her retirement in Pride of Jenni, the final race that will take place at on the weekend in the Peter Young Stakes at Caulfield over the 1,800 metres, and her and Zardozi will tussle for favouritism on the day. I mean,
very, very, very controversial ownership, right? So Pride of Jenni has been widely discussed, and off the back of her last run, everyone was saying she has done enough. Tip her out. They bowed to that. She then went off. She had a bit of a break. They said, hang on, she still looks like she's enjoying it. Did we just sort of get caught up in that whole thing? And now she's back. Again, sometimes you just need to take a breath. We're very quick in racing to make judgment calls. So she's back.
Yeah.
It's a good thing?
I don't see it as a good or a bad thing. I just think going forward, and Saturday, it's one that is going to divide opinions, but also it is fraught with a bit of, like, you holding your breath a bit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're not going into it going, it's great to see her back. Like the way that her preparation of the spring ended, and we discussed it on the podcast, the week back up from the King Charles into the Cox Plate. I think in both of our opinions at the time was never going to work, and it didn't work out. And then they decided to keep pushing forward, which I found even, I guess, more alarming, and then she bled. I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing if she's showing all the signs and they're really happy with her. That's great. Maybe she does want to go, and the trials have been really good. But I think I'm walking into the weekend going, I'm holding my breath a bit because I want to see her. I want to see her at her best.
It's not our sport's not about our sport. It's about the horse.
Yeah.
First and foremost. But our sport can't afford for her to have a major setback.
No.
Now having come back. Same applies to Shelby. Imagine if Shelby races next and breaks down.
Yeah.
The sport can't afford that.
No.
So I agree with you. I'm approaching it with excitement that she's back. She adds so much. She is
so much.
An absolute star. And we'll talk about her, and she's a headline act, and we'll talk about her rivalries, and she adds so much to it. But there's hesitancy there.
Yeah, I just think it's me going with caution. Yep. Just going, I'm not potting the decision, and I'm not elated by the decision. I'm just holding back going, I just want to watch and see.
Get her home safely.
Yeah, and then, if she runs an absolute blinder on Saturday, you go, well, you guys made the right call. Well done. That's awesome. She's back. If she doesn't, you go, well. Yeah. Anyways, any final tips for the weekend or horses that you are keen to follow?
No, I'm sure anyone who has them or has interest would be watching on Thursday night, 7 p.m. Black Bookers. Replays available via the catch-up on Star
Any
Racing
final
website.
thoughts then on the Pago and the Magic Night?
I just hope you have a fantastic weekend, Dem. And good luck with all of your bets. Who do you like?
In the Coolmore Classic, I do think that Lady Shenandoah wins. In the Far Lap Stakes, I'm going to have an each-way play on Moving Out.
Yep.
First up, I've got my queries, but she looks to be a bit of a star in the making. She ran a stunning race in New Zealand, third up into her first preparation in a Group 1 in New Zealand Guineas, where you were going, okay, you're made of something pretty cool. And then in the 2-year-old events,
Kilman?
I don't think it's cut and dry with either of these. I think Strata Verena could win. I think Korinska could win.
Money's with Wester Swindon.
He's already in.
Yeah.
So what?
And Kilman's win last time was
Kilman was very impressive, and I won't rule out Michael Friedman's Colts as well, because he knows what he's doing with 2-year-olds, as we know.
And he'd kill you if you did.
Possibly.
Yeah.
I think I'd be looking at Valedictorian right there on speed. How much speed is in that Pago?
Yeah, you say not much, but 2-year-olds are weird.
But each way, I'm happy to take him.
Okay.
Thanks for joining us on So We Think. We'll be back to wrap it up next week, where we'll only be a day or so out from the Golden Slipper.
What's gambling really costing you? For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.